The floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks for the opportunity to present to you today something about the tokenization of energy. My name is Kai Siefert. I am the managing director of Riddle Code Energy. It's a joint venture between the well-known blockchain interface company Riddle Code and the largest regional energy supplier of Austria, Wien Energy. Yes, the tokenization of energy, it sounds very generic. At the end of the day, what I really want to get down to today is how can we make sure that of this Green New Deal that everyone is speaking about, everyone gets a share and everyone gets its share fair. Let me kick off the presentation with a statement that seems obvious to some of you, or might seem obvious to some of you. But for me, it doesn't cease to impress me even after 6 years of developing energy-centric distributed ledger technology applications. And it's the fact that renewable energy sources, due to their high level of distribution and the characteristics that they bring into the energy market, they are a perfect match for adapting and also developing new distributed ledger applications in the industry sector and beyond that. What does it mean? It means that obviously using blockchain technology is not the golden bullet for each and every problem that we have in the renewable energy sector, right? But especially on the topic of this high distribution and based on the fact that so many new players come into the market that have not been energy professionals in the past life, it makes a lot of sense to use in very precise and limited doses, obviously, but nevertheless use a distributed ledger for exchanging data in the energy sphere, and especially for transactions between all of these players that don't trust each other naturally. So what you can see here on the right-hand side is a nice overview of the solar PV landscape in Europe. It's every yellow dot marks a large PV park. As I think most of you know, if we took into this map every little household installation, it would be full yellow. But it very much shows the high level of distribution. And today, or basically at the end of last year, 2 million solar PV power plants have been already registered in Germany alone. And according to Cisco data, the magic number of 8 billion energy devices has been broken through at the end of the last year that are connected to some kind of internet. So we have 8 billion IoT devices in energy already out there. And obviously, the big question is, if this technology fits into this game so nicely, how big is the game? Well, 100 trillion US dollar of investments into clean energy sources are required to fully decarbonize the global economy over the next 30 years to limit global warming to 1.5% by 2050s, according to International Energy Agency data. That means from now on, no additional investments in fossil fuel energy is required. And more than 70% of global power production will need to come from highly distributed and highly volatile energy resources like wind and solar PV. 100 trillion US dollars. Let that sink in. This is definitely the biggest, and I quote here UN envoy Mark Carney, this is the biggest commercial opportunity of our age. Every nation, every company, every human being will be impacted by that at the end of the day. But it's definitely not guaranteed that this impact will be positive for everyone. So the big question is, how can we make this huge investment sustainable? The platform that we developed at Riddle Code Energy certainly brings in a lot of capabilities into this game that support every player out there that wants to use the platform to achieve their goals of developing sustainable energy applications, especially in the distributed energy sector, in the prosumer sector, in the energy community sector. But due to, for the sake of simplicity and for the sake of time also, I will only focus on the problems and obviously solutions of financial participation in energy assets. Yeah? Well, I think you could say it also in other words. Today, I want to really ask the question: how can we make sure that everyone gets its fair share of the Green New Deal? And to really narrow it down, it makes sense to look at the hurdles that currently stand in the way of many to participate in the energy market. So in the energy industry and in the energy market itself. So obviously we had big evolution on the power generation side and on the energy generation side, with new inventions, but also big advancements in the solar PV technology, in the battery technology, also in the technology to produce hydrogen, and so on and so forth. So also these assets become smaller and smaller, and they become more affordable for the players out there. But what we realized is that the energy transition is by far not taking the pace that is required to really meet our climate goals and our renewable energy goals. And we ask ourselves, why is that the case? And we really found out over many years of talking to these potential energy players that it is basically a lack of transaction technology and a lack of high hurdles of getting into this market. And one of the biggest hurdles for many, it stands at the very first step of every renewable power project or renewable energy project. It's the investment. It's the point in time when people think about investing in an asset, in a project. And here, due to the very diverse character of renewable energy sources, being so different in terms of size, in terms of their location, it is very hard today to really get the right asset size for every investor. Sometimes the asset is too big, especially for small investors. They cannot put like hundreds of thousands and millions into an asset. On the other hand, especially for large institutional investors, these assets are very often too small, right? If you talk about an average solar PV park, I talk about 1 to 5 million US or euro of investment, which is too small of investment for larger players that at least require 15 million lots and so on and so forth. At the same time, we have to reflect that these new players that come into the game that also want to become energy entrepreneurs, that also want to own an asset and also want to operate an asset, they are not energy professionals. Yeah? So it's very hard for them to really know, especially for the investors, does the asset really exist, or does the pool of assets, maybe the hundreds of PV power parks that are spread around Europe or the whole globe, do they really exist? And then how do they perform? How does each and every asset perform, especially on a daily basis? And is the profit that each asset is generating distributed according to contract, so fairly? You know? That's a very big problem that we receive by many players. And at the end of the day, maybe that should have been like the first big hurdle for many projects. It's the profitability, the lack of profitability. So if you get into the game, the easiest way to market the output of the asset is to just subscribe to a feed-in tariff of one of your local energy companies. And very often this the return that the players can gain with that is too low to make the to meet the hurdle rates of the investors. So this is a big problem, unfortunately, still today in the renewable energy sector. At the end of the day, this all comes together in the lack of liquidity in the renewable energy sector. And I don't talk only about financial liquidity, but especially in Western Europe, we have a lack of liquidity in terms of projects, right? The market is overfinanced. Many investors out there, but they search the projects which are not there because maybe, there's a lack of land. There's a lack of acceptance by the local inhabitants that don't want to have the wind park beside their village and so on. And that's this kind of liquidity is lacking in Western Europe, but especially if you get out of Central Europe, it really is also a lack of financial liquidity. So very many projects that are maybe of a higher risk, they fail to get sufficient investments, and it's very hard for them to obviously speak to a wide range of investors. And that's the reason, and that's the main goal of the energy tokenization platform called MyPower that we developed over the past 3 years, is to really solve these problems that I just mentioned. When you look at the asset size through the tokenization of a physical energy asset, actually every energy asset can be accessed by any investor of any size. If this asset is too large, right, by securitizing, for example, the usage rights or even the ownership rights, and putting them in an asset token, you can sell them online in a thousands of numbers of shares to large to micro investors. So everyone, even if the person has only 10 euro, can become an owner of this asset. On the other hand, if the asset is too small, due to the high standardization that the tokenization brings into the game, these assets can be more easily pooled. They can be then also treated like a digital asset and can be brought into full online and full digital processes to create larger pools of investments that are then attractive to the large institutional investors. The transparency problem is obviously being solved by putting every machine identity of every asset and every transaction that is taking place between these machines on a distributed ledger. So you have a perfect audit layer, so everyone who needs to be informed can be informed, especially while obviously keeping anonymity where anonymity needs to be guaranteed. But the use of a blockchain in this regard is basically a big improvement in terms of transparency for all the investors. A short example is maybe if, for example, you are a big institutional investor who wants to invest, for example, maybe in 20 or 25 solar power parks in Romania, each one has 1 megawatt peak installed. You really don't know with the current IT systems that are out there how are these assets performing. And now we give them at hand a dashboard that gives them really proven and secure data near real time of the performance and the profits each asset is generating. The profitability issue is a very big, obviously, topic for us. While admitting that the first step is always tokenizing the asset itself, so it becomes available for each kind of investor. Many investors then ask, obviously, so how can I make most value out of this asset? And there are several possibilities that where you can make more money out of your asset, right? So you can get into monetizing the impact that this asset has, especially in countries outside of Europe. while proving in a very secure way, in a very high quality way, the origin of the electricity produced, or of the energy produced. On the other hand, due to tokenization, it becomes very easy to close fully automized green power purchase agreements. You can easily register them at virtual power plant platforms out there, and can also get into those countries where energy communities have already been, legalized, if you want, such as Austria, which just released a new energy law that makes energy communities very attractive way of producing and sharing electricity. But obviously also decentralized marketplaces that are out there and are also upcoming, such as the virtual market integration of the Austrian power grid, where they're joining the equity platform together with a few other players also from Germany, Belgium, and the Netherlands. But also maybe a more extreme way, or maybe very innovative way of gaining additional income from your assets is the registration and the implementation of your assets into the data markets out there. And there are very nice opportunities that we support to make use and monetize the data that each asset is producing without the necessity of the data itself leaving the asset. So it's a highly innovative field, and the MyPower tokenization platform is perfectly equipped to make profits from this new marketplaces. Right. How we do that? There's a special way we tokenize energy. We're very proud that that we are the player in the blockchain game that has the highest level of trust in terms of the data source. This has been a topic. So securing the source of the data has been the #1 topic since our foundations of the company. For us, it's very clear that once data is on the blockchain, it cannot be manipulated and it cannot be deleted. But it makes it even more important to trust the data source, where the data comes from. And in situations where there's not already a very high trust environment given by the energy player, we can provide this in each and every scenario out there, from large power plants to the small smart meter of a consumer, by adapting a so-called trusted gateway. It includes a crypto chip that can also be put into metering devices and into logger devices and into existing edge devices, that is basically giving every machine a unique machine identity that cannot be manipulated, and is signing each and every transaction of this machine in the network before putting it on a blockchain. This is obviously the source for every type of token that will be minted from this machine and can be used further on. Obviously, there are two types of tokens that our network and our platform is based on. It's first of all an asset token representing the asset in the digital realm, and then also a utility token which represents the output of the asset per kilowatt hour. This hardware device, which we call trusted gateway, also includes a hardware wallet. That means that the machine itself becomes a fully automizable and maybe if this is wanted by the user, also autonomously acting transaction partner. So it behaves like a wallet for digital currencies, but then it's basically trading electricity. There's one use case that I brought with me that I want to explain to you in detail. As I said before, we're very much focused today on the asset side, so on the tokenization of asset. And here I will present to you one product that we have online on the platform, and which is currently, for example, being used by Wien Energy in Vienna. And what you can see here is basically a general overview of the capabilities of this feature. We call crowdfunding or multi-ownership. It can be configured by every user, according to the user likes. So from a more like a soft approach for B2C customers with a very gamified touch, towards a very highly professional process used by large investors or companies that want to start crowdfunding campaigns for large power plants. So the process will go like this. In the first step, we go to an existing asset, or we are part of the installation of a new asset, and the trusted gateway will be connected to the power plant, to the metering device and the metering data flow. I just explained the process anyway, how the data then gets signed. After that, the investors, we will tokenize the asset into asset tokens. Call this, for example, KWP tokens. And all investors can then buy micro shares of this, for example, of a PV plant in euro over an online campaign, for example, over the website of the company that is our user. In return, every investor then receives the asset tokens he basically paid for in its own wallet. And as soon as the power plant starts operating, kilowatt-hour tokens will be minted according to the performance of the power plant, and then distributed according to the number of kilowatt of asset tokens each and every customer or investor is holding. So the investor can basically near real time look into his dashboard and see how the kilowatt-hour tokens are accumulating, and then based on a certain payout period that is obviously been configured by the user itself, you will receive. He can redeem the tokens into any kind of business. So whether he gets paid out in euro, or it can be used as a voucher in a company, in a product portfolio of a larger company, especially interesting for large utilities that have maybe tens or hundreds of different services that can be maybe purchased for, on a discount with these kilowatt-hour tokens by the customers. And obviously, there are many, many more of opportunities that you can do with these kilowatt hours after that. But enough with the theory. We are very proud that we have also practical examples that we can show you. So the first user of the MyPower platform is Wien Energy, and was Wien Energy. And I will now show you shortly how they made use of this platform. So after first release of a minimum viable product with 100 customers in early 2021, the product was achieved so well by the customers that Wien Energy decided to make it large and to tokenize the largest PV asset of Austria. It's a PV power plant in Vienna, Schafflerhofstraße, and basically, tokenize the asset and sell it to the customers out there. Were a big campaign. It was a very successful project. We tokenized the power plant into 38,000 tokens. Each token roughly representing one panel, so 300 watt peak at the price of 250 euro. And these tokens have then been sold in the online shop of Wien Energy. After 2 weeks of this campaign, more than 1,000 customers purchased asset tokens, and over 5,000 asset tokens have been sold. So suddenly more than 1,000 customers of Wien Energy became basically a part owner of this power plant. Yes, the way Wien Energy used the kilowatt-hour token as a form of a voucher So Wienenergie very much has the the value proposition for focused on end customers, B2C customers. They want to really use it as a kind of a customer loyalty program and a kind of a door opener for the energy community business, for already creating, interest with the citizens of Wienenergie with this new type of energy sources, but also obviously having a highly intuitive media to move between different services and product portfolios within Wienenergie and the Stadtwerke of Vienna, so the whole utility of Vienna. They say that everyone can take his own energy with him. So you can take your kilowatt-hour tokens, put it in your car to charge it, or put it into public transportation. And obviously, the first use case for Wienenergie was not to put it into electric car, but it was to make a credit on the monthly or annual bill for the electricity producers. So at the end of the day, the assets or the shares of the asset produced electricity for their customers, and especially after the energy prices have been rising so heavily over the last month. We have very satisfied customers at Wienenergie side. At the end of the day, they were hedging their own power consumption over the next years. I mean, as long as they are holding these tokens, they can be supplied with their own electricity for very stable price, which is basically already contracted. So they can make up for a lot of other, price rises in the energy sector for all the other users out there that don't own an asset. So what was basically very well received by the customers is the way the ownership of the asset has been presented in an online dashboard that you can see here at the right-hand side. So on the upper right-hand corner, you can see basically the account balance of every customer wallet. And on the left-hand side, you can see kind of a live view of the current production of the asset and the share distribution and the power distribution of this asset. In this case, it was a Tuesday, and it was I think a little bit in the morning, and this bar is then growing every 5 minutes a little bit more according to the power production of how dependent on how sunny the day was actually. So that's a very neat feature, and our customers really embrace that opportunity. Electricity, especially green electricity, becomes now more tangible. We can kind of create a quality for electricity, which was very unthinkable in the past. That's basically a product that is very anonymous. People do care about the asset where this comes from. They are proud of owning an asset in their own city, and they share this proudness and this happiness with their friends over social media. So this is really cool. We have even still after several months of basically it's over a year now, nearly, that the product is running. We have several thousand clicks on a daily basis on the website. So yes, as mentioned before, today I was taking you on a journey into the tokenization of energy assets. The use case I explained to you is rather on the security token side of our service portfolio. So the service portfolio of Riddle Code Energy and the energy tokenization platform MyPower. Security token is basically what I always call an asset token. And after tokenizing the asset, you can really go into different directions between, asset disaggregation, making it smaller, putting it into smaller pieces, or asset aggregation, creating asset pools. Very important also, obviously, is the utility token-centric service range, which then tries to create additional value for every asset. And yeah, I'd be happy to maybe present the opportunities that are out there on this part to you on a later point in time. But yeah, for the moment, let me just thank you for the opportunity to present to you, and I hope you found this interesting, and I'm really looking forward to many questions because I think we have plenty of time to discuss them. Thanks a lot.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Kai. Indeed, we have no lack of questions, but before we go into this, let me